To my video on volume of cylinders. So today we're going to look at where the formula comes from and how to use the formula. So a cylinder is a solid figure that has two congruent circles as its bases. Okay, the top of a cylinder is a circle, the bottom of the cylinder is a circle. The area of the circle tells the number of square units in one layer. The height tells us how many layers there are. Okay, so the volume of a cylinder is the area of the circle base times the height. Just like in volume of a rectangular prism, it was the area of the base, so length times width times the height. Well, now we don't have a length and a width. We have the area of a circle, which is pi r squared times h. So let's look at the steps. Make sure you have a radius, which is r. The radius is half the distance across the circle. The whole distance across the circle is called the diameter, and we'll talk about that on the next page. So the second step is to find the area of the circular base using the formula a equals pi r squared. And remember from 6th grade, this is the area of a circle. And we take the area of the circle and we multiply by the height. Okay, turn the page. And we have a computer glitch here. There we go. So volume of a cylinder, once again, there's the formula again. It's pi r squared times h. So if we're given the diameter, we must first find the radius before we use the formula. Because the formula has r, so if they give us d for diameter, then we need to take half of it. So the radius is half the diameter. So for example, if the diameter was 8, the radius would be 4. If the diameter was 12, the radius would be 6. If the diameter was 20, the radius would be 10. Good, so now we have an SOL practice question to get us started off. It says, which expression can be used to find the volume, underline volume, of a cylinder with a diameter of 12 and a height of 15? So what I always like to do is, once I know what formula, volume of a cylinder, I look at the formula and I know I need r and h. Well, they gave me diameter. So what's half of 12? Good, 6. So the radius is 6 and the height is 15. Now, I look at my answer choices and I'm going to look at the formula. So I need pi. They all have pi in it. Now the radius is 6. So which ones have a radius of 6? Okay, these two. But notice, which one is squared? Because the formula says r squared. So choice D. So now we're going to find the volume of each cylinder. Round to the nearest tenth, and I'm going to show you how to round to the nearest tenth. So our first step is going to be to, since we're doing volume of a cylinder, we need a radius and a height. So is the 4 the radius here? It sure is, because it's only going halfway across the circle. And 12.9 is the height. So now my second step is to write the formula. So V equals pi times radius squared times height. Okay, my next step is to replace all the symbols and the letters with numbers. We know that pi is represented by what number? 3.14 times. Now I'm going to take out the r and put the 4, so 4 squared. And I'm going to take out the height and put 12.9. Now, everyone uses different calculators, so I'm going to tell you how to use it if you have the x squared button on your calculator or if you don't have the x squared button. So if you do have the x squared button, you would do 3.14 times 4 squared times 12.9. And then you would hit equals. Now, if you don't have the squared button on your calculator, you would do 3.14 times 4 times 4 times 12.9. So if you don't have the x squared button, remember that squared means multiply by itself. So instead of typing in 4 squared, you would type in 4 times 4 in place of the square. Okay. So I'm going to type it into, well, I've already typed into my calculator, and you get 648.096. So I underline the tenths place because it said round to the nearest tenth, look to the right. If it's 5 or above, I give it a shove. If it's 4 or below, then I leave it alone. So the 9, that's 5 or above, so I'm going to make the 0 a 1. I'm going to bump it up 1. So 648.1 feet cubed. Because remember, it's volume, so it's always cubed. So since I have feet, it's feet cubed. Okay, move on to the next one, number 2. I need a radius and a height. I already have it. There's no picture here, so we're just going to write the formula. V equals pi times radius squared times height. Okay, whoa. Let me just get rid of that. Sorry about that. And now we're going to take out pi and write 3.14 times, my radius is 9.5 squared, times the height, which is 2.2. Now once again, I've already typed this into my calculator, so I'm going to write down what I got, and it's 623.447. Now, to round it, underline the tenths place. Remember, the tenths place is one number after the decimal. I should have said that in the last one, but I think you figured it out. And draw an arrow to the right. It's 4 or below, so I'm going to leave this alone. So my final answer is 623 4/10 yards cubed. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Now, number 3, I notice that the arrow goes all the way across the shape. So that means that the 7 represents the diameter. So I need to find the radius. So I'm going to take half of this number. So another way of taking half is dividing it by 2. So I can do 7 divided by 2. In my head or in a calculator if I needed to, but this is easy to do in our head, so let's do the radius is 3.5 and the height is 11.5. Now, I think we have some room under here, so I'm just going to do it down here so I don't run into number 4. So write the formula, pi times radius squared times height. Okay, take out pi and write 3.14 times the radius, which is 3.5, but don't forget to write the squared, times the height, which is 11.5. And I've already typed this into my calculator, so it's 442 and 0.3475. Whoa. And underline the tenths place and look to the right. It's 4 below, so I'm going to let it go. So it's 442 and 3/10. Make that a 3. And 3/10 because we're keeping it the same. And it's centimeters cubed. Okay, brings us to number 4. Now, notice we have a diameter, and we have a fraction. So we got to change this fraction to a decimal. So I can do 2 divided by 5, and that would give me 4/10, but there's a 3 in front, so the diameter is 3.4. And the height, 1/4 is 0.25, so it's 1.25. Now, I can't plug the 3.4 into the formula. Why? Because it's the diameter. So I have to take half of 3.4, or 3.4 divided by 2, and it's 1.7. Now I'm going to write the formula, and now I'm good to go. Pi times radius squared times height. Now the formula itself doesn't have the dots in it. I like to put the dots because I know that when letters are touching each other, that means multiplication. So pi is replaced with 3.14. The radius is replaced with 1.7. Be careful, don't put 3.4. Times the height, which is 1.25. Okay, going to type that. Well, I've already typed it into my calculator, and I get 11 and 343 thousandths. But I need to round it to the nearest tenth, so underline the tenths, look to the right. It's 4 below, so I'm going to leave it alone. So 11.3 meters cubed. Now, remember, when you are typing this into your calculator, there's two ways. Type 3.14 times 1.7, hit the x squared button on your calculator, then multiply by 1.25. If you do not have the x squared button on your calculator, then you're going to do 3.14 times 1.7 times 1.7. Because when you square something, it means to multiply by itself, and then times whatever the height is, in this case 1.25. Okay, that concludes our notes on volume of a cylinder. I hope you have a great day.